Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I am Feinix13 of the Birds of Hermes, and welcome to Star Trek Online. Now, you may be saying, hey, what the heck? I thought all your Star Trek stuff, I just realized the mic is too far away. Hello. You may be saying, hey, what the heck? I thought you were supposed to be playing Stellaris. So Star Trek New Horizons. Well, as I said in the earlier today, I probably released a Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist episode. I don't know which one. It'll be on the episode, probably. That my Stellaris playthrough of the Klingons kind of broke. And I said in that one, hey, what do you guys want me to do? And I am announcing this video to kind of say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I am going to end that playthrough and move to the Federation playthrough because it's more story-oriented. So you get to actually see some of the cooler parts of the mod that way because the Borg are not playable yet. Believe me, once they are playable, I will be playing the crap out of that. But I'm here to show you a couple new things in the mod in Star Trek while I'm at it. One of them, Star Trek Online I should say, is the heavy weapons slot. The heavy weapons slot is this new thing that came out in I guess we're on season 13 now, where for your heavy escorts you get another weapon. I currently have the heavy escort or hyper excited ion stream projector, which is a mouthful, but when you look down here, it does pretty good electrical damage, but it shoots it in a line. So if they happen to ever line up slightly, you get an additional 10% damage per hit target. So if you can line like 5 people up somehow in a line and you fire that, it does so much damage. And plus, it still does all the every non-critical hit increases my critical chance stuff. And I think it also helps with my Omega weapon amplifier. But, I only have 1 attack severity on here. But, yeah. If you just noticed, hey, what the heck, the Alucard was supposed to be your Prometheus class. Well, it's no longer, because I realized this ship is my biggest, baddest MF. So I renamed it. So now we have the NX13 USS Alucard, which is actually an Akira class, which is still my favorite class of starship. And I named, where is it? The Lambda, which was what this ship used to be, is now my Tier 6 Fleet Battle Cruiser. And the Shepherd of Fire, which used to be my Fleet Battlecruiser, is now my Tier 6 Prometheus class because of the Firebringer ability. I thought that was rather perfect fitting for it. So, and I finally did a little bit of upgrading. Like my Radiant console's now at Mark 14, this one's at 13. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but I have my Advanced Radiant Anti-Proton Beam all the way up to Mark 14 Elite. My shields are now at Mark 13. One of my consoles here is at Mark 13. So I've been doing a little bit of work upgrading wise. Oh yeah, and my kinetic cutting beam is now Mark 13. But for those of you who do play this game, if you ever want some advice on how to upgrade your stuff, there's 2 ways to do that. One of them is here. Like if I were to come here to the Mark 15 beams that I have, there is this, there it is, Superior Tech Experimental right here. This is the same as the Superior Tech upgrade in terms of points. Like it upgrades the same amount, which I think is, it's not going to tell me, but I think it's 15,000 per thing. The only difference between the superior tech here, and the experimental one is one that takes 2 salvage tech, which you can get from, let's see, where is it? Which you can get from research and development packs, which are currently, I think, on sale right now. Yeah, they were. But you can get them from there, and then occasionally you'll find, like, in sector space, you'll find some ships, just barren ships that you'll give you a couple things. Sometimes, like, some rare items and occasionally salvage tech. But what those do, if you come here to the upgrade, is it raises your quality improvement chance, I think, by, like, 2% or something like that. Like, it's kind of a lot. Which, when you get up, you know, pretty high here, like, say, like, this guy here, the advanced radiant one, if you go to upgrade this, which I don't have, but like this percent chance to go from, you know, ultra rare to epic is like ridiculously high. Like you have to put so many things in there to get it to upgrade to epic. It's kind of ridiculous. Or you can wait, and occasionally here in the Z store, under the items section, for like, they have like the 10 master key set here, they will occasionally drop a 20 key box, which also comes with an instant epic upgrade, which will increase one item to Mark 14 epic immediately, like that. No dilithium cost, nothing, which is how I got this, which is great, by the way. And so I need, like, God knows how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 19 of those. Basically to max this baby out. And, let's see, 19. I think they're 20 a piece. So, you know, I almost need to spend $400 almost on just those to max this thing completely out. And which you may be saying, like, whoa, that's a lot. But, and I completely agree, that is a ridiculous amount of money for it. But just this single increase here raised damage ridiculously. You know, so upgrading your stuff in this game, just a couple levels, is ridiculous. And if you can get it up, sorry, I hiccuped over there. And so if you can get like 2 levels and an upgrade, so if you can get like this guy up 2 levels, or if like this guy who's just very rare, you can get him up 2 levels and 1, you know, quality chance, increases your whatever thing you're increasing by a ridiculous amount, especially for your fleet stuff, because your fleet stuff that you buy is ridiculous, especially like your fleet neutronium, which is kind of ridiculous in a way. Just increasing that alone. Let me see here. So see, like right now, 21.2 and 10.6, you know, hull capacity. That's at Mark 12. At Mark 13, 22.5, 11.2. That isn't a lot, but see, it went up from 21.2 and 22.5. You know, so you go up twice, that increases your damage resistance essentially by 3% on everything, because it's neutronian armor. And then you get an additional 3% hull. You know, so like that doesn't sound like a ridiculous amount, but 3% matters quite a bit. Like right now, I'm sitting at 85,000 hull and an escort, for God's sake. You know, so just that 3%, all of a sudden now I'm like at almost at 90,000, and I have a little bit extra damage resistance, you know, so it adds up really quick. Or for instance with my shields, you know, I'm at 13,000 and a freaking escort. That is ridiculous. Okay, I mean, I understand they're covariant shields, which means they have high capacity, kind of low recharge, but that's in an escort, for God's sakes, you know what I'm saying? So it's ridiculous. And one of the things that some people asked, well, at least my friends have asked, is, you know, like, why do you want us to do the builds we do? And it's because I'm going to give you a little building tip as opposed to actually playing something, because, I mean, I don't want to spoil the game for you. I mean, I kind of don't like that. I need to go do those too. There are 3 classes you can start with at the start of the game, in addition to the 3 races. You know, Federation, Klingon, Romulan. Then you have your 3 classes: Engineer, Science Officer, and Tactical Officer. I, of course, am an Engineer, just because I'm weird and I went Engineer. Now, from there are 3 classes of ships. I don't know if I probably have said this already before. I'm just going to reiterate. There is, your science vessels, your science, your escorts, and your cruisers. Now, each one specializes at different things, and it's completely up to you on that regard. And then, of course, you have your skill tree, which has been completely revamped from what it used to be. So you have your engineering stuff, your science stuff, and your tactical stuff. See? So you have like science, exotic particle stuff, long range targeting sensors, or you have your tactical stuff, advanced shield penetration, things like that. And then you have your engineering, which is like warp core potential, your defense tuning, stuff like that. I don't know which one that one is. Oh, a blade of armor. Okay. But for everybody, I recommend doing all of these, because this is shield capacity, shield restoration, hull capacity, hull restoration, energy weapon damage, and projectile weapon damage. I recommend everyone does all of those, and then just play from there. And this one's targeting, so it increases accuracy. This one here is, defense-based stuff. That shield regeneration again, shield hardiness, which means you don't take as much bleed-through damage. Hull plating, that's, damage resistance. Damage control, which is regen rate again. Then we have, these are the, you see, weapon amplification, that's critical chance. Weapon specialization is, I think, critical severity. No, that one's critical chance. That one's critical severity, but you get my point. And then, these are, like this one does your shields and aux power. This one does your weapons and engine power. That one's, your exotic damage. This one actually is pretty useful, because the farther away you are from your target, the less damage you do. So, if you do this one, your long-range targeting, your maximum distance penalty is minus 20%, so, yeah, see, it starts at 2 kilometers or closer, and then scales up to 50% loss when you're 10 kilometers away. I have it here, because usually I stay around 5 kilometers or so. I don't like getting that close. But, so I've reduced that penalty to 30%, so I don't lose everything I'm doing. And then I have advanced hull penetration, advanced shield penetration, because that's, penetrating the shields as well as penetrating armor. And then I think this one's shield mastery, which means if somebody hits you with a critical hit, you can negate an incoming critical hit. This one increases that chance, and then this one will actually bounce some of it back if they hit a critical chance. This one is your warp core potential on everything. I don't know which one that one is. Oh, these do your recharge time on those officers, which I didn't really do. Coordination protocols, that's for your hangar pets. And defensive coordination, because I usually don't have my pets on offense too much. I usually do defense, which means I usually use interception or defense, really. Yeah. Because I'm weird and I don't like them leaving me too far away. I like intercept, because they'll destroy anything around me that are like torpedoes or fighters, things like that. And they won't leave. Like, if you put them on attack, they will, like, straight up just leave you and go attack stuff. I don't like that. I like intercept. Normally I would do escort, but I don't like that. But again, everything is up to you. There's really not awful builds in this game. It's just, you gotta just go with one, in my opinion. You can't be Mr. Universal, because I used to do that, and that doesn't really work. But I go with anti-proton, because it's a very damage-based build. Anti-proton does the most damage out of everything. And I know there's then there's a phaser, disruptor, plasma, polaron, tetrion, and I think that's it as the base weaponry goes. And each one has their own kind of ability. And of course, anti-proton. But each one kind of has their own ability. Like disruptor strips damage resistance. Polaron reduces power level. Tetrion strips shields. Plasma does damage over time directly to the hull. The phasers turn off a subsystem, so one of these, for like 2 or 3 seconds. I don't remember which one. And so, and then there's some hybrid beams, like the plasma disruptor hybrids, or like Romulan plasma, which is kind of the exact same thing, but in the other way around. Then there's like spiral wave disruptors, which are disruptor phaser hybrids, things like that. And then there are some specialty, I will say, versions, like in the reputation tab. If we go to the Dyson one here, we go to store. Let's go with dual heavy cannons. We have Protronic Polaron, which that is a Polaron based weapon, but it doesn't have the Polaron ability. If you look over here, you can see it does on criticals, it does extra damage, proton damage. Okay? Or if we come to the new Romulus tab and we go to the store, these are like some of the best weapons in the game, is the Romulan plasma, which, if you look over here, just plasma damage, does 92, plasma damage, 2.5%, but it also has the damage resistance. These are the plasma disruptor hybrids. And then if we come to Iconian, see, we have beam banks. There we go. We have radiant anti-proton, which on 2.5% chance you get temporary hit points for a little bit. Things like that. We come to Terran, and we have withering disruptor, which does radiation damage as opposed to stripping off damage resistance. Or we can come here to the temporal guys, and they have chronoton weaponry mostly, which is kind of a reverse chronoton in a way, because it increases your speed as opposed to reducing your opponent's. So it's kind of a make you faster so your opponent seems slower kind of a thing, as opposed to make your opponent slower so you're faster than them. So it's kind of an interesting combination. And there's all kinds of different mixtures and matches. So, but like I said, there's really not a bad weapon choice. You just want to stick with one. So like, for instance, with me, the only reason I have the radiant anti-proton beam here, but everything else is just normal anti-proton, is because, one, I got the advanced radiant quantum torpedo, and it goes in a set with that, and then it gives me this nice little console down here of the sustained radiant field, which gives me 22.5 hull healed, 11.3 weapon damage, all weapon damage, and 22.5% to shield heals. So I get a little extra defense as well as a little more offense. But then out of that set, I get hull capacity, more temporary hit points when I get the temporary hit points, and then I get the advanced radiant overcharge, which is this guy right here, which is broken as hell in this game, especially with a Mark 14 advanced radiant weapon. Basically, the way this thing here works is once the target's at 50% health or lower, it does more damage. And the lower their health, the more damage it does. And like, I want to say like even when it's just like base, like 50%, it does like 40,000 damage or something like that in a single shot. If they have lower, then it's like, it just goes up almost exponentially. And if you happen to have like Tactical Team 1 on, along with Focused Assault, with, Attack Pattern Omega 3, Emergency Power to Weapons, Beam Overload, and Focused Frenzy on, like I do most of the time when I use that, the damage hits 150k, sometimes higher. Like, there have been times when I've had it where I had, somebody hit like there, because since I'm an engineer, I get engineering fleet 3, which means all my team, get all these extra bonuses. I've had somebody hit, tactical, team, tactical fleet 3, things like that, and some other buff items for me. And I've done like over 200,000 damage with that single shot. So it can be disgusting and done in the right manner. Especially, and this is another one, because you can do all power levels plus 25%, which actually, because the thing is, though, is as it says 125 is your highest. You can secretly, I think, get it to 135. It doesn't show, but you can get it up there. You have higher power level. And so, you can do ridiculous amounts of damage using anti-proton. But the thing about anti-proton is it's all damage based. And so it's not very good every once in a while. If you meet someone with really high damage resistance, you're kind of a weak link in the fact, because your damage is only damage. You're just doing damage. You're a DPS machine. But that's all you are, is you're DPS. You have no abilities besides that help any. Which is why I tried to put on some stuff like, destabilization, resonance beam. And focused assault doesn't help me, it helps everyone else. And let's see here, those 3 are just gross. But this guy here, the refracting Tetrion cascade, that helps a little bit, but not much. So I don't have much in the way of support. But so I'm kind of a useless help. Emergency weapon cycle helps me, only in me. Okay, coordinated assault is kind of nice. Because since I have hangar pets, right? I have Delta Flyers. Elite Delta Flyers. So whenever I activate beam, I think it's overload. Yeah. They also get beam overload, which is nice. But coordinated assault is what it's called. And this is one of my favorites, is numerical superiority. I get an additional 10% damage based on the number of allies attacking the target that I am attacking. And so I can help encourage people to attack the same target as me with focused assault, because they get bonus damage and bonus accuracy if they're attacking the target that I am. And so that's kind of how I help people out. So I can kind of help boost their damage, and in the process boost the crap out of mine. So say if all my teammates are fighting the same guy I am, and I have focused assault on, they're all getting bonus 10% damage. So each one of them is getting bonus 10% damage. I, meanwhile, am getting bonus 50% damage because of, like I said, numerical superiority. Plus, if I pop, beam overload, the tactical team, Omega, that, all 3 of those, and I can raise damage like mad. Because most people in this say, DPS. You want to be DPS. I kind of said I don't want to be DPS. Because the whole thing is with anti-proton is you have very high critical chance and critical severity. That's kind of what the whole thing with anti-proton is. But if you look up here, I have times 3 damage and a little bit of critical chance. And then, of course, I get a plus 20% critical severity bonus just because it's anti-proton. But I get plus 2 critical chance as opposed to plus 1. Per every weapon, and plus my critical chance is already base 19.6, crit severity is already base 86.1, so I get basically 100. I do double damage for every critical hit basically, and since my critical chance is at 20%, every 5th shot is a critical hit. And where is it? I need to go to skills specialization. Here we go. I go command officer on specialization just because I'm weird. But Achilles heel. Every outgoing hit. See, I can lower damage resistance with that. And then I can also drop their 40% damage when I hit them with an Achilles heel. Which is, it goes out whenever I hit it with a critical hit. They lose damage resistance and then they lose damage. So it's kind of helpful in that regard. Those are nothing. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, scan for weakness is another one. It helps me get. Here it is. I get 2% chance on exposed target to expose a target on torpedo exploits, and what that means is this guy right here, torpedo spread. That's a torpedo exploit, I believe. I don't really remember, but so I get 50% extra armor penetration. And then on exposed targets, which means I don't have any shield, I get shield drain on that. And then violent detonation. I have an increased armor penetration on torpedo exploits. So, it's kind of gross for torpedoes. And that's why this torpedo defense system is so great, because I shoot 6 photon torpedoes doing that kind of damage at every target, and then I have torpedo spread 3 and 2, which shoot, I want to say 2 to 3 quantum torpedoes, which I have here, when you can see what that damage looks like at every target. You see, so, and there's all the buffs for it, see? And, and the quantum torpedoes bounce. The radiant quantum torpedoes bounce. They have a 33% chance to bounce to 2 additional targets and deal radiation damage. I forgot about that. They bounce. I forgot those torpedoes bounce. But then, of course, I have an ability where every non-critical hit I have increases my critical chance. So that's how anti-proton works. Hawk can show you how Disruptor works, because that's what his build is. Other good builds are like Tetrion, which there's all kinds of different Tetrion builds now. But one of my favorite Tetrion builds is actually here at the new Karin. I usually just use beams because I'm weird. But these bounce as well as the Tetrion. See the 2.5 to do minus 418 to all shields. That's all 4 shield sides. So you're doing straight damage to all shield sides. And then it has a chance to bounce. That's why I like these. That a chance to bounce is great. That's why I love this refracting Tetrion. Like I said, but there's different kinds of Tetrion. Like I actually have a Tetrion console right here. The temporal suit entanglement. See, this goes with it's a overcharged core and an anti-chronoton infused energy weapon. So I get stuff here, and Tetrion damage to nearest target. Targets take whatever. So there are all kinds of Tetrion stuff, but that one's on there mostly because it gives me a little extra aux power, maximum shield capacity, which is great. That's why it's on there, really. But then the fact that it gives me additional critical chance and severity based on my auxiliary power level. And then I get 3% shield resistance, which is kind of nice, because I'm using covariant shields. But see, my auxiliary power is sitting at 53, even though I have it at 25. So I'm getting I think it's like 5% extra critical chance and critical severity because of where my auxiliary power is at. So that's kind of my point, is there's all kinds of different builds. Romulan Plasma is another fun one. That's DPS for days, because you're doing both Plasma and Disruptor stuff. So you're stripping damage resistance while also inflicting hull damage over time. Like Romulan Plasma, if you want to go DPS, that's one of the good builds to go with, is Romulan Plasma. But there's all kinds of different things. Like Chronometric Polaron, which I don't think we have anymore, but I think I can still show you the torpedo. I guess not. I thought I could. Oh well. Anyway, like Chronometric Polaron was a thing for a while, where you had chances to have everything go directly through the shields, like the Chronometric Chronoton torpedoes, which is part of that set. If you had the whole set, the torpedoes would completely 100% ignore shields. Like they were 100% shield pin. Like they were ridiculous. and the weapon was still, of course, Polaron based. So you could put that on a straight Polaron build, and then have that on there. But my favorite Polaron is actually released here and Boldly They Rode, which is one of my favorite missions.
Now that we have the aid of one of the founders,
which
we
is
should
Dominion
have
Polaron.
no trouble convincing the Jem'Hadar at Deep Space Nine to stand
Dominion
down
Polaron,
and
as you see, is
return to
a
the
Mark
Gamma
11 rare.
Starfleet and the Klingon
So,
Empire
you're going to have to do a
are
lot of
assembling a
upgrading.
unified fleet to
But
garrison
it's,
the station and repair
Polaron,
the
so
damage
minus
from the battle.
29.7
We
current
want
power
them to go
level,
with the
and then it's
founder
also
to
Tetrion.
negotiate the surrender of the remaining Jem'Hadar.
So it's kind of a Tetrion Polaron hybrid, which is why I like it. So there's all kinds of different weaponry. It's just pick one you like. If you like... But it also depends on the role. Like, if you're picking a science vessel, Tetrion is usually a really good choice. Or Polaron. Polaron and Tetron's really good for a science vessel, because science vessels can target subsystems, things like that. And so you can turn off a subsystem, things like that, as well as strip shields, as well as, reduce power level. So you become a very good support vessel. Cruisers, just pick one. Escorts, just pick one and go. I wouldn't put cannons, just because the thing is, between cannons and beams, beams do more consistent damage. They're usually more accurate, and they have way more choices for abilities than cannons do. The only thing cannons really have going for them, let me show you. The only thing cannons really have going for them is, like, here, let me come here. Heavy cannons. Romulan dual plasma heavy cannons. So let me come down here and find the ×2 damage ones. Right, so here we go. 855.9 plasma damage per round. 684.7 DPS. Now let's compare that to mine. Mark, I do slightly more, but that's also because I'm getting, some buffs from here, things like that. But dual heavy cannons do the most damage in the entire game. There's one problem. You hold over here, you can see the firing arc. You see that? That's the firing arc. Beams have a 250 degree firing arc, which means as long as the enemy is within that beam, you can hit them. The duals is 90, so you only have that, but that's, still doable. Dual heavy cannons are 45. So see that little, that's a small arc, right? Now cut that in half. That's what the dual heavy cannons have to hit in. So it's, like I said, it's really not that worth it, because you have to keep your bow on them at all times. And plus, escorts are kind of nice, because I also have a 360 beam, and I have a 360 beam, and I have a 360 beam, and now I have an additional 360 beam. Wow. 2,716 electrical damage. That is gross. Yeah, and see my dual beam with all my upgrades and everything, just base damage right now is, 1,864. And this is my normal anti-proton, 1,434. My Mark 14 Epic Advanced Radiant, 1,712. I think you are my normal 360. Yeah, 1,351. This is my other one. Yeah, you're the, I think, which one were you? I think you're this one. Yeah, you're the Ancient Omnidirectional one, which is a little weaker than the normal ones. But I need him for this set. But see, even my weakest weapon still does over 1,000. And this one's still pretty good, 17. But it's kinetic. And now I have this fourth one, which does apparently 2,716. I did not know that. That's kind of gross. Because normally if you come in here, this is what their base damage is, see? So like the base damage for this is 1,242, with just my straight base bonuses, 1,864. So, damage can be a thing. But also build-wise down here, you need to get some universal consoles. This is always a good one, the assimilated module, because it gives you crit chance, crit severity, and weapon power. Right? I like this one, because you get whole healing, shield healing, weapon damage. And this one's nice because it gives you auxiliary power, maximum shield capacity, which is a pretty good maximum shield capacity buff, by the way. And then a little bit extra crit chance and crit severity. And then Neutronium Fleet Armor is always a good choice. And then, as for your devices, just pick something you like. I like these because I can make these to give me temporary hit points. And, they're kind of like a little health potion. And then I just put a satellite on there in case I need to help, hold a target, like defend a target. And then Fleet Tactical stuff. These are the best buffs for weapons in the game. And the cool thing about these is they are not weapon specific. Like most of them are beam specific or cannon specific. These are not. You can go with beams or cannons with these. And but as for beams or cannons, I suggest beams. If you want to go cannons, you go ahead and go cannons. I really don't care. It's up to you. But I like beams because there are more things for beams, like beam fire at will, beam overload. There's a couple others. But with cannons, you get 2, and one of them kind of sucks. You get a cannon spread volley, which means you basically have jack for accuracy, but you can hit in a cone, kind of coming out the front of the ship. And so it's good if you're trying to hit a whole bunch of stuff at once. Ish. It's kind of like the beam equivalent of beam fire at will, but it kind of sucks. And then they have cannon rapid fire volley, which is kind of their version of beam overload. But essentially you shoot just really fast, which you can kind of get around with beams. Like, I have emergency power to weapons here. So I get a 20% cycle haste. And my advanced radiant here, he has a built-in cycle haste. Where is it? Yeah, 3% firing cycle haste for 6 seconds for this weapon, and it has a max of 10. So you can get some cycle haste for beams, so you can speed your beams up. You can't necessarily speed the cannons up. So that's just me personally. I like the beams. They're more accurate, they have wider range, and they have more versatile stuff. But that's just me. You want to go cannons, you go cannons. As for weaponry, again, it's up to you. Just pick what you want. But just stick with that. Because you don't want to hybrid stuff. You lose damage if you do that. And then try to pick a good, say, if you're support. I'm not much of a fan of the fleet, like deflectors, things like that. Unless you're going for secondary deflectors, things like that. But as for these, I want adapted Mako. Just because they're really good. But if you come to the reputation tab, this, in my opinion, is where the best shields, deflectors, warp cores, things like that are. Like if we go, I want to say it was the Iconians, have, in my opinion, the best resilient stuff. Let me see here. It's advanced radiant beam, advanced quantum torpedo. So here's the deflector dish. Kinetic damage resistance, additional power, improved shield healing, improved maximum hit points, improved shield hit points. That's pretty decent. Then we go to the hyper impulse engines. Just a +5 defense rating. Ooh, that's not great. Then we go to the warp core. Plus 5.5 additional engine, a maximum of 5 allows you to see 125, maximum warp factor. And then add 7.5 of your engine to your shields is nice. Improve power levels when low. That's a good one. And it gives you additional hull regen and additional shield regen when you're at full impulse. So you're good to get away. And then, in my opinion, one of the better resilient shields in here is the resilient shield here. Because it removes a debuff every 10 seconds, which is nice. It's pretty decent in terms of capacity, pretty decent in terms of shield regen, and I love resilient shields because I get the 5% absorption, 5% bleed through. All the other shields have 10% bleed through. Resilients are the only ones with less bleed through and absorption. And then, of course, you get the hot restart. So this is, in my opinion, is one of the better resilient shields. And that's actually a really good set, too. And let's go to the new Karin, because I believe they have resilient as well. Here we go. Impulse engines, kind of basic stuff, but you get additional shield power, which is nice. Then we come to the crystalline resilient shield. A little bit better maximum capacity, a little worse regen. You get reduced Tetrion, radiation, but you get all energy damage resistance. And then you get a 1% chance to reflect incoming energy damage with 50% shield pin, which is really nice. And I actually have that set, and then you get a pretty decent set bonus too. So that's why I like those. You get pretty decent set bonuses. Like, for instance, I have adapted Mako. So I have increased Starship maximum hit point, power transfer rate, improved stealth and cloaking, which normally that would be nothing, except for I have a couple of abilities for that. One of them is here, and I don't see the other one. It probably isn't on there. I'll have to put it back on. Where are you? Masked energy signature. There it is. There it is. And then I have, apparently I put them both on. Mask energy signature, which increases my stealth. Ridiculous. As well as anyone else close to me by 30%. And it increases our defense. So that increased stealth does help. And then it improves my exotic damage, which is literally just for this guy over here. I don't use much exotic damage, but it's kind of nice. Which is probably what's actually increasing that, now that I'm thinking about it. But, and then it improves control effects and resistance too, which you need because that helps you resist like tractor beams, gravity wells, things like that. And then improves energy shield drains, which I don't need, but I need the resistance to, because when you're fighting the Borg, they tend to use that shield drain ability. Impulse engines are kind of normal. But bonus weapon power when you're at low impulse engine, and bonus shield power at low impulse engine. And you get bonus auxiliary power when you're at you see what I'm saying? So it's kind of a bonus to all other categories when it's low. And then the covariant shield I've already shown you. But let me show you the set bonus, which I really enjoy. Because the first one, increased torpedo damage, increased maximum hull every 6 seconds by 3.5%, increased auxiliary setting, and then I got that mask energy signature. Now the reason the torpedo one is so good is because I have two things of torpedoes. I have the torpedo defense system, and then I have my normal advanced radiant torpedoes. And my quantum torpedoes recharge pretty quick, but that's also why I go with 2 torpedo spreads, because I like having lots of torpedoes firing. And generally, as soon as I pop this one and I fire, I generally will get one more torpedo off in between, and then I'll have this one popped on the next torpedo volley. And then this one will have time to recharge, and then I'll shoot another torpedo, and then this one will recharge, and I'll fire again. So every other torpedo shot that I have is a volley to a whole bunch of different targets. And then, of course, I have this guy where he'll hit 8 enemies with 6 photon torpedoes each. And then I have this, which reduces shields, decreases shields per second, and then makes their shield resistance crappy. And then I have this, which is just there for shiggles and gits, really. It's there for small stuff, but it does do some decent phaser damage. And so, that's why, you need to pick decent, sets. That's what set bonuses are great at. And if you want to know, hey, which set should I pick? Well, there's all kinds of different sets. But typically, try to pick one that's close to your style, whatever it may be. If you're a a science officer. I very, very, very much recommend the Sutherland, which is a Nebula refit, because he comes with a great console. And also, I would recommend the Dauntless, is a very good science ship. And then the Jupiter, wherever he may be. Oh, there he is. And then the Jupiter class carrier. I definitely recommend that. Those are the 3 science ships. If you play Federation, you want one of those 3. The Intrepid's decent, but he's kind of a universal science ship if you want like specific tasks. The Jupiter is a great kind of a white mage. The Dauntless is a great kind of a black mage, if you want to put it that way. And then the Sutherland is your... He's just a really good support. He's a good support character, I would say. Your Intrepid's kind of your red mage, if you want to think of it that way. As far as escorts go, which is what I use, there are so many escorts. It's just take your pick of which one you like flying the best. As for cruisers, same kind of thing. But cruisers I can help you out with a little bit. Like if you want to go defense, like heavy defense, I recommend, where is he? The Guardian Cruiser. And the reason why I recommend the Guardian Cruiser is because, unlike the other ships, he comes with a different thing for why he's good. Because, like as you see, I'm using the Akira. Akira has 3 unique abilities. You know, he has his torpedo point, his point defense, and then his shield destabilizations, which means 3 of my slots are taken up by my craft specific. There we go. I eventually got that out. Consoles, which they do help a little bit. You know, they each do damage, and then I get a little bit of a bonus because I have all 3. You know, 20% kinetic torpedo, 10% crit severity. You know, 2.5 there, and I get tactical and pilot officer reduction time and some more accuracy. You know, so I get a little bit of bonus for that. But so you can. It tries to help you out a little bit. But with the Guardian Cruiser, you only have 1. And it's like a defense one. Which means you can spend more of your slots. Like I have, 1, 2, 3 universals. Those 3 universals. And I only have room for 4 tacticals and then my 1 neutronium. For other things, like the Guardian Cruiser, you can spend that on capacity for your shields, or what I would personally do is put like 3 or 4 of these on there. Have your damage resistance up around 70% or something ridiculous. So you don't take like any damage whatsoever. And so like you can do like a tanky kind of a cruiser, or you can go with like an attack cruiser, kind of like the I'm trying to think of a good attack cruiser. Yeah, probably the battle cruiser would be a good choice for an attack cruiser. The Galaxy is a pretty decent one. Don't tell Hawk I said that. The Resolute, which is the tier 6, this is actually, in my opinion, the best support cruiser in the game, is the tier 6 Excelsior. If you know what you were doing, that is like the best support cruiser in the game, in my opinion. Because when people know how to use that, it is so much help. But that's kind of the basics to getting started. And again, if you guys ever are on here and you see that I'm playing, and I guarantee you can find me. I mean, I'm probably the only one flying around with that handle name, flying probably around in the Alucard. By all means, come over here, chat me up, hit me up with a message, and, I'll help you guys out if you need me to. Because this game is so much fun. And before too much longer, we hope to finally get some actual, content videos for this done. Because me and Hawk kind of already beat our stories, and we don't really want to go back and do it because we're lazy. But a couple friends of ours were trying to get involved in the game, and they're finally going to be able to before too much longer. And so we're going to try to make a fleet, and get a whole bunch of stuff done. And if you want some tutorials like on how our fleet's going to work, things like that, you should stick around for those videos, because and the reason I brought up the Guardian Cruiser is because a friend of ours, that is going to be his ship, for the exact reason I just said, of it is tanky as hell. And we plan on having him use the Iconian defense set that I just showed you a second ago here, because it's such a good defensive set. And for those of you who want to know like a tutorial on what like on the USS Walter or the USS Hawkeye, whichever one Hawkeye 1621 is using, because he uses 2 ships, you should comment below if you want to see what his build is and why it works the way it works, things like that. And another friend of ours, it's Raven, he is going to be using the, let's see here, I don't have it on me because I don't have the freaking Lobie crystals on me. His is going to be a Lobie crystal store ship. Those are fun, by the way. But he's going to be using the either Tier 5U or Tier 6. I don't know if there's a Tier 6 version of it yet. But it's going to be either the Tier 5U or the Tier 6 Jem'Hadar Dreadnought carrier with the elite Jem'Hadar attack fighters. And he's going to be using Polaron, primarily Dominion Polaron, with the Dominion, like resilient shields and stuff set. And I'll explain whenever he gets on why that's a really good set. And I don't really know who's going to be our white mage yet. And I say white mage, he's not really a white mage, but it's going to be whoever's going to be flying around in the Sutherland with a Tetrion build, which I will totally explain why that build is amazing at that time. But if you guys are ever on here and you see me, I'm sure Hawk is the same way. If you see us on here, hit us up. We'll help you out. If for you new guys, for you old guys that just want to, chill out, for you guys that are experienced with it, you want us to invite us into a PvE and chat and have fun, you let us know, man. We're down to clown anytime. And again, I'm sorry about the whole thing with Stellaris, but I promise the Federation one will be up soon. And I will see y'all in the next video, whatever that may be.